When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to know and do to finally achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. It's one thing to have a seat at the table and a whole nother level to be on the cap table of a future unicorn. That's right, we're talking venture capital today. And that's what many companies that you may already be familiar with, like Zoom or Spotify, that's how they got the funding to start and were able to grow their businesses and create generational wealth for themselves, the founders, and many of their employees. How can you get access to these opportunities? Well, that's what our conversation is about today. Here's the 3 things that you may not know about venture capital. First, in 2021, there were over $300 billion in venture capital deals. But here's the sad part is that women received only 2% of those dollars, and Black founders received less than 12%. And that's why I'm excited to having a conversation on Get Wealthy today with Lisha Bell. She is the co-founder of Blacks or BLX VC, an angel syndicate of moms funding Black and brown founders. She's also part of one of the founders of Women Color Capital Collective. But most importantly, Lisha is a tireless advocate for diversity, financial inclusion, and educational access. She's a first-generation college graduate who received not 1, but 2 MBAs from prestigious universities like UC of Berkeley and Columbia Business School. She's also the lead on PayPal's $530 million commitment to Black Lives Matter and serves on the advisory committee for PayPal Ventures. And Lisa is here on Get Wealthy with us today. Welcome to the program, Lisha.
Thanks for having me. Hello, hello.
Well, I want to have a conversation with you, not only about venture capital, but really about your own life. One of the things in reading about your phenomenal career, and I want to give you due, is that you say that being the first one in your family to attend college, specifically a prestigious university like the University of Southern California, changed your life. How so?
Even though I'm from South Central Los Angeles, I never stepped foot on a campus of USC until orientation. And I was unaware about the access that I would be given just by entering that university, gaining a network of well-established individuals, gaining the academic intellectually to feel like I could compete in the world, and getting that confidence to really execute on my dreams was really grounded all by going to that university. So, I mean, that changed everything for me.
It changed everything. And not only that, but Lisha, you went on to get 2 MBAs. Talk to us a little bit about why and what that journey was like.
Yeah, so I was that person who, barely made out of undergrad and said, I'm never coming back. That was me. But after I started working in corporate America and was looking for progression, I knew I needed to have an advanced degree of some sort. And the MBA was really that great generic business degree that could get me there. And even though I had one great school behind me, it really wasn't enough as a Black woman. You really have to prove yourself. So me taking did my business at Berkeley and Columbia, because being bi-coastal matters, and leaving California and having new experiences and adding more of a global footprint to my experience was so critical. And it just gives people the confidence that they can reach out to you. It encourages them to say, you are well connected, you have been proven. And I needed that, because it took me 10 years to go back to school. Okay. I was older when I went back to school. I applied several rounds. I took that GMAT several times. So it was not an easy thing. It took me 3 years to actually get into business school, and already took me 7 years just to apply. So it's never too late to do it. But once I did it, it added that additional runway I needed to make it through.
I love that you said runway, but one of the things I find in coaching specifically Black women is that oftentimes we will go to these prestigious universities, but we really won't leverage the networks that those universities provide, even though we've spent, serious dollars, right?
Yes.
Serious investment. And so I really would, before we really get into the conversation, want to talk a little bit about how you leveraged, right, that academic accomplishment to impact your career.
Yeah. I do think I don't ask enough. I have 3 schools behind me. And I think I need to ask them to do more. But one way that helped me was that I became really active. I'm a really active alum in these schools. I ran the alumni clubs, and it forced me to just stay in the network and keep it alive and active. And activating that network is part of the relationship building that has to happen after you graduate. And those really multiplied in what I thought I could see for myself, how they saw me, expanded my leadership skills. And I think we have to keep using that muscle, just like we're in school again, to keep it alive, because it's extremely fruitful. And we just have to utilize that. And I know it's hard to ask, but people are willing and eager to support you in your success. Like, let's start with that as like our basis point, and not that we're burdening, because, as a Black woman, we get asked all the time. All the time. And so I think it's okay to shoulder that weight and ask for help when you need it, and tell people when you're looking for a job, tell people when you're not being fairly compensated, ask for second opinions. Like, all this is critical to us being successful. We just had Black Women's Equal Pay Day yesterday, which is setting back, because we're still not, we're getting further back and getting equal pay, because we're not having these conversations that we have to have.
You said something really interesting that I think is a clue to leveraging your connections. And it was not that you were involved in the Alumni Association, but that you were engaged and took on some leadership positions. So my next question to you is, what role has exposure played in your achieving the kind of success that you have in your corporate career?
Yeah, I think being silent gets you nowhere. And, even internally and externally. So I volunteered, I ran the Black employee group at probably every company I've worked at to date. And, but I was forced to speak out because so many employees were telling me their stories of internal racism, inequities in the company, and I was to be that voice because I had access. I always joke, I'm not at the bottom, I'm not at the top, I'm somewhere in the middle. I can push through. And I do believe we have to speak up, and I tell people, you have to write it, you have to say it. And that's how we push our own narratives out there. I own my own social media. I push the stories I want about myself and my people to see, because I am a lot of people's only Black friend. And I know if I don't tell them, they don't know. I mean, I had one colleague said, Lisha, you're the only Black person I know that talks about. Well, we got to change that.
So you said something interesting there. And I feel like I know in my corporate career, I was, quite vocal And I do feel like there is a feeling for Black people, Black women, that if they speak up, that there's going to be backlash. And I wonder if you can give some insight on how to say what needs to be said in a way that can be received in the right way, so that people don't feel like they're being attacked.
Yeah. So I would say I started off, being angry, unable to control my emotions, having rage. And I've had Black aunties at work pull me like this and say, girl, you better get it together. So I've finessed my craft over time with maturity and wisdom, and learning how to articulate a non-threatening but very direct and very action-oriented message. And that's why I tell people I write. I wrote a business plan on the 535 commitment. I wrote a why, here's a proposal, here's some next steps. Like, people respond to that in a meaningful way. And I think you just have to not, kind of soft, and then you go in. But when you write it, it's very precise. I think when we talk, it's super emotional, and it's hard because this is our lives and our lived experience, but it's not everybody's. And so we have to get it to where people can understand it and to digest it and receive them and give them that time and space. Like, I do think it's something that I've worked to craft over time.
That is so good. That is great advice. That's a great takeaway. And that is to write it down, make it plain before you voice it. And, I remember this anecdote, if you will, that said, is it kind? Is it nice? You know what I mean? Like, is what you're about to take out of your mouth, say in words, does it meet this criteria? Love this. When we come back, the formula financial success that we use on Get Wealthy is mindset, strategy, and execution. And I want to have our conversation in that framework, but more about you personally giving. I think you're a great example of, and that you can share with our audience, particularly Black women, how they can navigate this, pretty, challenging work, social environment to achieve financial success. So when we come back, more of our conversation with Lisha Bell.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, and I am having a wonderful conversation on Get Wealthy today with a powerful sister. Lisha brings over 20 years of demonstrated technology, innovation, focused on digital, on fintech, really is how I would describe it. But what you may not know is that she is currently at PayPal Venture, where she leads the Economic Opportunity Fund, $100 million investment into emerging fund managers. Let's bring Lisha Bell back to continue this conversation. And I want to start with mindset. Now, come on now, Lisha, you're in tall grass. Now, and so what I want to know is, like, when you're with your colleagues, are you one of many or one of a few?
I've always been one of a few, unfortunately.
So tell me why you think that is.
So one, I'm a Black woman in technology, which is rare. So I have a computer science minor. I'm a STEM person by trade. And, you know, we have to get more of us into STEM. I mean, that's just point blank, period. Number two, I'm in fintech, you know, which is another niche of a niche of, you know, women in payments, women in transactions. You know, I know very few people who do what I do, and that's very unfortunate. And I think Silicon Valley has been unkind to Black people. And so when we try to bring them into this culture that can be toxic, they don't last long. You know, like, you really got to persevere to get to these, to maintain in these tech companies. It's a very difficult place. And so, you know, I think the mindset is like, you got to get what you want out of the experience, you know, and I think people have to be focused on that prize at the end, which could be wealth in terms of equity, could be wealth in terms of your expertise. Like, it's so rich in what you gain, but it's definitely a taxing process.
You know, I'm so glad that we're talking about the perseverance aspect of it, because here's the truth. You can look at all the stats in terms of Black wealth. You can look at, for example, UBS just did a study on high net worth multicultural families. And when you look underneath their numbers, one of the things that you see in the different demographics of African American, Asian, Hispanic, is that a great deal of that wealth came from earnings, and those earnings were in the technology sector. So, you know, you got to go where the growth is. And I know that the statistics show that for Black women, many of us go into these careers or industries that don't provide that kind of opportunity. And so my question to you is, particularly for young women and for parents who are watching this program, what advice would you give for how more Black people, Black women, can thrive in this sector, knowing that it's very competitive, and it's not going to be just competitive for a Black person. It's going to be competitive for everyone trying to find their way?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. I think, you know, what's concerning, like, the number one career for Black women coming out at a young age, like cosmetology. And, you know, for us, it's like, how do we get exposed early enough to understand these different careers that will bring us wealth, and how do we get there? And I think we need to encourage our kids, because I know many of us are just creative spirits. I mean, that is in our ancestral being, and we want that creative body. But you can be creative in technology. You can be creative in medicine. You can be creative in so many ways. And we just need to see those examples of what we can be and encourage our children to try hard things. You know, like, nothing's going to be easy for our kids. You know, I have a young daughter, you know, like, sometimes life is hard, you know, and, you know, if we push through, I know we can be so inventive. We are inventors. You know, we can be more creative. We can demand a product that is valued by the entire world. Like, I know we can do it if we are there, and we're just not there. And we're focusing, unfortunately, in lagging industries, or I call it the helping. You know, I want to help somebody. The largest school that we have Black people in at USC is social work, right? Because it's like, we want to help. And I get that we want to help. But by us creating wealth, we can help a lot of people, you know, a lot more people.
That's exactly right. And so to that end, I do feel like it is exposure, right? Like you can't, if you look at families and if you look at generational wealth, one of the things that is fascinating to me is how many physicians, their children become physicians, right? How many computer scientists, right. How many mathematicians, and I would say that I believe a huge part of that is simply exposure, and it no longer seems hard because it's familiar. Okay, so now I want to go back to you, because you are a first generation college student, and yet who influenced your path into computer science?
Yeah, I mean, I was that kid growing up in the AOL dial-up days in all the chat rooms. Like, I was fascinated, like, by the internet and, you know, playing Oregon Trail and Atari. I'm a Nintendo kid by heart. And I was just fascinated by that. And I knew there could be something to that. Like digital, like being on screen, building something, creating something. And and it was during like the .coms boom or bust, whatever you call it, but I knew there was this movement. I was in LA, I knew in the Bay Area, there was this hot movement of things going on, and I wanted to be a part of it. And being from LA, everybody is in entertainment, and I knew that wasn't the path for me. Like, I wanted to be creative in more of an industrial type of way. And I thought this could be a path for me. And all my family was like, you can't just work down the street at Macy's. Like,
yeah. But to that end, though, I'm interested, though, like, you were interested in tech. And if we look at the stats, what we see is that Black folks over-index in usage of tech, right? Particularly, you know, our young folks, we are doing a lot of creative things, but we may be on the software side, we're not on the hardware side, right? And so I would love your views on your perspective on what needs to happen in order to expose our youth and younger folks to what careers could be if they actually understood how to build it rather than just play on it.
Yeah, great point. I mean, we are the early adopters of a lot of these technologies, and we help these companies build their companies, honestly, without the equity. If you look at a company like Clubhouse, 100 million, I don't know, it might be billions at this point, valuation, and how Black people took that platform and curated conversation and led town halls. I was like, how many Black people on the board of this company? How many
Black Twitter? Right?
Like, Black Twitter. Who's on Jack Dorsey's executive? Like, we need to question all these things and say, can we build it ourselves, or can we get equity stakes? Can I go work for that company? My kid likes Roblox. Okay, I'm like, here's some Roblox stock. Maybe you should go work for Roblox. You know, like, we have to get in the game because we are using these tools and we understand how they work and we understand how to market them. I mean, we're doing free marketing. This is free labor that we're doing. Nobody's paying us to like tell people how to use these tools and make them great.
That's exactly right. And you know what? Great transition into our next segment, which is strategy. So I really want, when we come back, to talk about the strategy that Black folks need to take in order to shift from being that consumer to that owner, right? That earner into that shareholder, right? When we come back, that's the next part of our conversation. Don't go anywhere, folks. This is Get Wealthy right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, and we're talking about getting wealthy, and we're talking about venture capital and being on. We'll talk about that a little later on a cap table and how you actually gain equity and create generational wealth for your family. Here with me today is Lisha Bell. She is a venture capitalist, sits on a number of different boards, chairman of the board of Black Girl Ventures, but more importantly, she wants to have so many of our underserved communities get included in the game. And so now, Lisha Bell, man, you've given us a lot to think about already. Now I want to talk about the strategy. You talked about the fact that your daughter, you're talking about, if you love this, let's look up the stocks. What kind of strategies do folks need to have in order to get in the very lucrative area that you're in? And that's early stage investing, where significant dollars are made. I talked about, not only being at the table, but being on that cap table. So would you explain to our audience for a moment, just actually what venture capital is and why it is so important for us to be included in terms of funding our business as well as investors?
Yes, so venture capital is a form of private equity of various stages. So if you're an angel, you're putting your personal money into these companies. If you're a VC fund, you're putting institutional funds into these companies. But this is essentially called, we don't have to pay you back money, like go be great money, which is different than small business lending, which is, here's the interest rate that you have to return this in a certain amount of time, right? So the goal in venture is like, we're going to put this amount of money into your company for a percentage of ownership that we're going to get back, hopefully 10x, 50x, when you have an exit, which is essentially an acquisition or an IPO.
Love it. And that's that. So that was very succinct. However, the other aspect of this that I feel like our audience needs to understand is that there is limited access into these deals because you either have to have, well, first of all, you have to know about them. And second of all, in order to participate in certain areas of venture capital, it's considered accredited investing, and you have to have a certain financial standing.
Yes.
So for someone listening, viewing us, well, how does someone get started so that they can learn and have an opportunity to perhaps one day create generational wealth from investing in early stage companies?
Yeah, I think number one, you have to escape poverty, which most Black people live poverty or paycheck to paycheck. Because until you build wealth, so angel investing is the highest, most riskiest form of investment. Okay, so you leave angel up there with crypto. Now that's a whole other conversation, but you need to have your foundation. You need to have savings. You need to have a retirement plan. You need to have money that you can lose. You can afford to lose. That's where angel comes in. And so I just want to why did I get into angel investing? One, I escaped poverty. Two, I build wealth. I said, I need to do something with this wealth that's reinvesting so I can see more people who look like me in technology. And I started writing my own checks, and I empowered myself because they weren't going to let me in. I said, well, here's my pedigree. Here's my Ivy League this. I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm in Sand Hill. All that didn't matter for me. So I just wrote my own checks, and that's really.
When you say you wrote your own checks, explain what that means. So you couldn't get in the big deals. So you started writing, taking your own investment capital and investing it in early stage companies, but as an angel investor, as opposed to have someone inviting you into a deal.
Exactly. So most marginalized people, the first round is called friends and family. And most of us don't have friends and family that have about $200,000 to just write a check. We don't have that. And so we rely on what we call angels. And so angels are accredited. You do have to have $1 million net worth or earn income of $200,000 a year, $300,000 if you're married. And with that qualification, you can write your own checks and say, I'm going to personally invest in you. I care about this business. I'm going to back you. And so once I write my check, you're going to be great because I'm going to ensure that you are great. I'm going to get you to later stage funders. I'm going to back you in all the ways to make you successful because it's very personal. It's my own check. It's not what they call OPM, other people's money. It's my money. And I want you to be great. And so that's the difference in an angel investor versus the institutional investor.
And so to that end, I think what we also need to help our audience understand is for Black businesses, and I stated that number, $300 billion in VC deals last year, only 2% to women, and then only 1.2% to Black founders. Traditionally, if you're an entrepreneur, you probably did what I did, bootstrapped it, use some of my retirement savings, leverage some insurance cash value to really, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
How can more Black founders position themselves so that they can get angel and equity investment?
Yeah, so, there is a categorization that is considered venture backable, and there are companies that aren't venture backable. So you're a small mom and pop's business, they're not considered venture capital. But if you are designing a product that you want to scale with technology backing you, then that's venture backable. And I think we should put more and more companies in that category. And, bootstrapping is not bad. It's not a bad term to build by yourself. But when you have a product, or we call it MVP, or something that's viable that you can sell to other people, that's when we have to shift and say, okay, how do I scale faster? How do I reach market? And I think we have more companies that could be in this category that people are saying, oh, no, it's not that, it's not this. And you have to try.
Well, tell me about it. As someone who personally pitched a fintech product, who had experience, great corporate background, already a product where people were buying it. And I mean, it was crickets. I felt like I was invisible. Here I am, this middle-aged Black woman who just stood out, like a sore thumb, if you will. And it's like nothing, great presentation, great idea, great, great this and great that. And so I do feel like that many of us are out here pitching, and we know that we have a scalable idea. We have proof of concept.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is, in terms of a non-technical founder, right?
Yeah.
Wanting to transition into the tech space, what advice, because that's when you can scale, right? And that's when oftentimes investors do see unique potential. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, and Deborah, I'm giving you a virtual hug because I hear Black women's tears and frustration every day, right? And I'm like, give me a hug. Just give me a hug. Because it is hard. It's not because you're not qualified, you don't have a product, right? It's because they're writing you off. They're writing you off and say, oh, you're not technical? Huh. You know what? Go get a CTO that is technical, that you trust. I see so many founders outsource their IP offshores. And that's, you don't have ownership of that. Like, you've got to keep it in-house. Find somebody you trust who can take those calls and help build your own confidence into the technology that you're building, right? And partially, Deborah, you didn't know I was in PayPal Ventures when you had a fintech product. You didn't know you could have called me. But now I'm here, okay? Like, yes. I want Black people building fintech products. We try to seek that. And 2 years ago, there was like less than a handful of Black and brown people building fintech. Like, it was.
And the exciting thing is there are a lot of people, not only not Black founders building fintech, but also a real opportunity in diaspora, right? So there's a number of products coming. And here's what's really interesting about Africa, I think, and the Caribbean and and the like, is that those are some unique opportunities, huge markets that are being underserved. And yet that opportunity, I remember I sat on an advisory board from some folks who were in the Caribbean who had payments, right? They were thinking about how they found it so difficult for anyone to pitch to and to just get that first even seed investment.
Right.
What advice would you give to someone like that who's listening to this program?
That's why we need Black angels. We have to seed ourselves. We have to be the first check in. Typically with my investments, I'm handing off to non-Black people after that. But I first check in, I've de-risked it, and we have to de-risk our own ventures. I believe in it. I understand the concept. This makes sense. And we have to validate each other, because we're seeking validation from people who don't understand our walk. And it's too hard to digest. This is actually a problem. People are like, I didn't know that being in the bank was a problem. Yeah, because you always had a bank account your whole life with money in it. Like, you don't know when we got to go payday lending or direct deposit advance every paycheck. That's not your reality.
Yeah, and I love this conversation. See, we could go on and on and on because this conversation to me is so important. And my takeaway really is that if it is going to be, right, we have to roll up our sleeves and do it for ourselves. But at the same time, we still have to have access to the knowledge that you're given, Lisha. When we come back, we're going to close with execution. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're talking venture capital, equity. We need to lean in so that we can take ownership of our financial success.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back to Get Wealthy, and we are truly learning about getting wealthy today. My guest today is Lisha Bell. She's a venture capitalist among so many other things and has really committed herself to inclusion and helping underserved women of color, Black women, get access to capital. Lisha Bell, this has been a fascinating conversation. Now, you are right now lead on PayPal Ventures. Talk to us a little bit about what that is and what the objective is of finding founders to fund with this venture capital.
Yeah, so 2020 was a rough year for all of us, particularly those dealing with racial unrest as well. And my company, I'm very proud, stepped up, and they were first out the gate, one of the first to say, you know what, we're going to commit to racial equity. So overall, it's a $535 million commitment to racial equity from PayPal. It's broken up in many ways, but the part that I lead is a $100 million commitment to Black and Brown GPs. So these are our fund managers. So essentially in the venture ecosystem, you have entrepreneurs and you have the funds that invest them, early stage funds. And these are the feeders for us. So if we don't see the people who are allocating capital to entrepreneurs don't get the money. So we've already proven that if you have a person of color or a woman, they're going to give that money back to that community. And that's what we need in venture because we're so underrepresented. So at PayPal, I manage 19 amazing funds across the US led by Black and Brown people who are changing the game, changing the industry. They have very colorful cap tables. They're seeking entrepreneurs that look like them, and they're raising the bar. And they're saying we are worthy of investment. And I think that's what's beautiful about the initiative that I lead.
Well, I do think it's, that's the point, right? Like, I really felt, when I said I was creating something for an underserved market or I was creating something for women, they were just like crickets, and they couldn't see the unique opportunity for being able to niche, right? And to get that where you don't have churn because people are so loyal to you and they're not going to leave you because of somebody else's other shiny object. And I really feel like the approach and the opportunity for your role is really now you're giving those dollars to people who really actually understand and have that perspective. Is that the point of it?
Exactly. You don't have to show up as a Black founder. It's like, because I'm Black, my experience, you can skip that whole part and say, this is the problem that I'm going to solve and here's how I'm going to do it. And the conversations are way easier. It's way easier. Why does Black women spend so much money on their hair? Like, I don't have time to go into this topic with you today. Like it
is what it is. Right? It's cultural. It's what we do, right? And so other large brands understand it. In fact, they've even niched into those markets, and if you look at their balance sheet and where their growth is coming, that's exactly where it's coming from. And so finally, Lisha, I just want to say thank you for having this conversation, but I want to go right into our analyze, optimize, maximize segment. I'm not even going to take a break. I want you to, based on the conversation that we've had, if you're a founder of color and you are looking to position yourself for fast growth and get into the venture capital game and get funding that way, what's the first thing that I need to analyze in order to leverage what I have? What do I need to know?
It goes back into something that we as Africans do very well, and that's storytelling. You have to hone your narrative. Tell people why. And that's why pitching is so important, because you have to tell your story, because these are dreams. All pitches are aspirational. We know you haven't built it yet. You don't have the money to, but it is the vision that you are bringing to us. It is the excitement and joy that you are going to have something that changes the way we think, the way we work, the way we operate, the way we raise our children, the way it's going to provide access and equitable spaces for more people. Like, it is the vision of storytelling. And so I'm like, people sell stories. That's what VC is about. You know, we saw Adam from WeWork, who got these hundreds of millions of dollars for no good reason. He's just a good storyteller.
He really, I mean, if that movie on him about him, if that is for real, man, I'm buying what you're selling.
I'm drinking that Kool-Aid.
So the whole point of what you're saying, Lisha, is that it really is about the pitch, right? That you know, facts tell, but stories sell, right? So that's number one. Would you agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, number two, it analyzed, so now optimized. So I got all my ducks in a row. I've got my pitch together. How do I get that exposure? How do I position myself so that I can identify specifically the kind of funders who are interested in the product that I have?
Yes, this is
or service.
Yeah, this is like, don't pray and spray, people. Do your homework. Look at the funds. If you are in fintech, look at fintech funds. Okay, if you're in MarTech, look at MarTech funds. Look at Black people who look like you, who've made it. Not just because, you know, they may have a similar track, but it's like, these are people who back them and who believe in them. Find your superstars, find your super angels who are well connected, right? And accept the things that you can't change and find people who can change them for you. So if you're out of footprint, which means you're in Mississippi, Alabama, all right, there's not many VCs there. Find somebody in your network who is in the spaces where money is flowing and get that money to flow out to you. You know, like, be creative and go get it. Like, go get it, be bold, ask for help, tell people what you're doing, you know, like, put it out there and be measured, because, you know, our founders burn out all the time. You know, we're in a crash and burn moment right now with founders because they're just exhausted because they've been turning chasing that money, and we got to be more strategic. And
great advice. Great advice. It's not working harder. It's working smarter is the point that you're making.
Exactly.
And then finally, to really maximize opportunity and to position yourself so that when someone invests in you, that you're able to become that a business that has a private company buy them out or is able to go IPO. What are the factors that you've seen that founders have that allows them to elevate to that level?
Yeah, I mean, I call it the make mama proud moment. You know, it's because when I see these founders, they represent the best. They tell our stories to people who don't look like us. They elevate our worthiness and our value, and they're paving the way. So when I see those people out, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, in real life, telling our narratives and telling their stories of worthiness, it's really pushing the whole ecosystem, you know? So even when I see Rihanna and her billionaire unicorn status, it makes me proud to know more Black women can be in beauty and excel. You know, like, it is inspirational. And they're doing it in ways that people never thought we could do. When I see Lizzo saying, we're going to get the big girls in here, we're going to get some shapewear with, like, partnerships. Like, those things expand the market. Our markets are underserved. I'm an investor in Young King Hair Care, which is about little boys' hair care. Black boys have hair too. There's no product for Black boys, literally on the market till they came on. It's like, this is a market that needs to be served. And we are so underserved that there is so much opportunity. And I love to see when founders disrupt these narratives that we don't need it or doesn't exist or it's not necessary, because it is necessary.
Lisha, this was so good. This was so good. I feel like that you're just barely touching the surface, and that the more exposed our community is to the different ways that you can build generational wealth faster, right? So it's not necessarily always, compound growth or, invest. There are other ways through which wealth is created, right?
Yeah.
And what is required is for us to think larger. So just leave us with one nugget of wisdom.
Be your best, bold, courageous self. That's why I just hope for all of us, that we can be seen and exist in how we want to live and be seen and be valued for that and be respected.
Lisha Bell, thank you so much for coming on Get Wealthy and sharing your own personal story, your wisdom, and how you are paying it forward to others.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation and have had the opportunity to see that there are all different ways to not only build your company, get funding, but also to build generational wealth. When we come back, the 3 takeaways from today's show.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed Get Wealthy today. So here are the 3 takeaways from today's show. Number 1, we have to really position ourselves in industry that are going to allow us to build wealth. Number 2, we've got to escape poverty so that then we have the opportunity to write the checks and be able to invest to build wealth. And then finally, and most importantly, we need to work smarter and not harder. That's going to do it for this episode of Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network. I hope to see you right back here next week.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is rolling@RolandSMartin.com.